Good morning, dear friends. Welcome to the Meeting House. I'm your host, Dr. Dwight A. Moody. I have my sidekick with me today, Fenwick. This is Sunday in the House, where we have conversation about life, politics, and Jesus. We're in a series on the questions that Jesus asked, as recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. And today we're looking at question number 3, which is the question that Jesus asked uh, his audience, who are my brothers and who are my sisters? We add the sisters. This is the third of these 8 questions, and we're taking as our inspiration and instruction today. I will have more to say about that shortly when I pull up my Bible and read the text and deal with it line by line. First, I want to say I'm coming to you today from my living room again. This is where we started the first Sunday of January of this year, but soon I'm going to have a rather permanent home studio because my wife and I, Jan, have bought a house right here in Travelers Rest, South Carolina. So I suppose we'll be here for a while. I have a picture of the house. It's a new house. We've never lived in a new house, and we're to close in 2 weeks. So I suppose that over the Christmas holidays, we're going to be doing a lot of moving. Who knows? If you stop by, we'll put you to work. Or if we're all finished, we may have an open house of some sort. Although there are not many of my weekly audience that live in what we call the upstate of South Carolina. I received a message, a Facebook message from a friend that I do not know. It's a friend of my son Ike. His name is Trenton. He lives in Galapagos, Ohio. I had to look it up on a map. It's right on the eastern border of Ohio, on the West Virginia border, very much off the beaten path. But he wrote me a number of things, among which he said, and I quote, "I watch some of your Sunday services," end quote. So we never know who's tuning in and taking encouragement from the message on life, politics, and Jesus. But I want to say welcome to you, whoever you are, wherever you are, and whenever you watch this broadcast. It, of course, is up on YouTube, my YouTube channel at Dwight A. Moody uh, on the YouTube channels. Fact is, all of the programs now, 46, 47 of them, are up, and you can watch all of them. This coming week is Thanksgiving. And today, for those of you who are still tracking church things, today is the last day of the Christian calendar. The leaders call it Christ the King Sunday. What we're looking at today is going to be a very different picture of Jesus, not Christ the King, but Jesus looking for his brothers, his people. I hope this coming week that you can spend some of your time with people who like you. We're going to be driving over to Maggie Valley, North Carolina. It's a little less than an hour and a half. My brother David, whom some of you know, finally, after, gosh, I think 50 years uh, living in Illinois, has moved to North Carolina. He bought a house over there, and he and I and our sister Debbie and various members of our clans are gathering there to celebrate. We're going to have 16 or 17 people. We're hoping for nice weather and also nice people. And if you don't have anywhere to go, let me know and we'll add a chair and find a place for you around our table. Well, that's my snapshot of life. Let's turn to politics. What a week it's been. Some of you follow all of this and some of you don't. The Epstein files, they say, will be released. I'm not holding my breath. Margie Taylor Greene, the rabble rousing representative from Georgia, announced her resignation from Congress. I think she's tired of all the stress and tension, but her resignation day comes 2 days, I understand, after she's eligible for her pension. Let's see. Trump and his best buddy Putin have designed a peace plan for the Ukrainian war, giving Putin everything he wants and leaving Ukraine out to dry. Trump, likes powerful and wealthy people like Putin, like the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, like Netanyahu in Israel. If you're not powerful and rich, don't count on any help from Trump. Just look at how quick he did a U-turn on the new mayor of New York. Mamdani is his name. What a great name. For weeks, the president denigrated the man, but as soon as he won, Trump got converted. Yes, Mamdani will soon be the powerful mayor of the most important city in America. Trump likes the rich and powerful, which is why neither you nor I or anybody ever hear him advocate for human rights anywhere, not here in the United States, not around the world, certainly not anywhere in Gaza or Ukraine, not for Native Americans, not for African Americans, not for the LGBTQ community, least of all for trans people. Unless, of course, you're rich and powerful. And then Trump might say something about your civil rights and your human rights. He might even invite you to the White House, commute your sentences, give you the Presidential Medal of Honor or whatever it is. It's all for Trump. Trump and his people have been on an 11-month crusade to crush anything and anybody that actually helps people, like food for school lunches and attendance at national parks, grants for community libraries and scientific research, vaccines for the children, anything that might help people. There was all this conversation a couple of weeks ago about empathy, how some of his people, some of his cronies don't like empathy. It's a weakness. Well, this is a good place to bring Jesus back into the report today. He was an empathetic person. At every turn, he saw the people that others ignored, like Nicodemus up in the tree. He saw him, called him by name, spoke to him about what he wanted and needed. I once preached a whole revival series, 5 sermons on Nicodemus. I mean, not Nicodemus, but Zacchaeus. People in that little church still talk to me about it. That's the hallmark of Jesus, the Rabbi of Nazareth, the Messiah of Israel, friend of saints and sinners, the crucified man, the risen Lord. That is the Jesus that we study, emulate, and invoke, pray to. Week by week, now for 47 weeks, we've turned our attention to Jesus to help us keep focused on the true North Star of human life and possibilities. Jesus is the true human. Our goal is to pattern life and speech after this spirit-filled man, this Son of God, this Lord of life and beyond. So here we are, week number 9 on our questions of the Gospels. I'm focused on these 8 questions. I've read them to you each week. Number 1, why are you afraid? Number 2, this was last week. Do you believe I'm able to do this? What a great question. Today's question, who are my brothers? Next week, how many loaves do you have? That'll be appropriate in the Sunday following Thanksgiving. That is, what do you have to eat? What do you have to give? What do you have to share? Number 5, who do you say that I am? Great question. And then number 6, what do you think? Something Jesus was always asking people, like a good teacher. Number 7, what do you want? What a great question. And then number 8, why bother this woman? So today the question is, who are my brothers? It's found in Matthew chapter 12, verses 46 and following. At the very end of this chapter, there are 9 questions in this chapter, 8 of them asked by Jesus. The last one is this question, who are my brothers? So I want to read these few verses. I have my Revised Standard Bible with me today. I'm going to read out of that. I'm going to grab my glasses. Here is the text. When Jesus had finished a series of parables, he moved on from there, and coming to his hometown, Nazareth, he began teaching the people in their synagogue, and they were amazed. Where did this man get all this wisdom and these miraculous powers? They asked. Isn't this the carpenter's son? Actually, that's not the text I want to read. Here it is. I'm sorry. I got lost. While Jesus was still talking to the crowd, his mother and brothers stood outside wanting to speak to him. Someone told him, Jesus, your mother and brothers, your people, are standing outside wanting to speak to you. Jesus replied to this man and in front of the whole crowd, who is my mother? Who are my brothers? And then pointing to his disciples, not everybody there was a disciple. Many of them were just curious people. Pointing to the disciples, Jesus said, here are my mother and brothers. Whoever does the will of God, my Father in heaven, is my brother, my sister, and my mother. Whoever does the will of God is my mother, my brother, and my sister. I finally found the right text. Let's focus for just a minute on the family of Jesus. We're told in a later chapter, maybe that's what I was reading, that Jesus' brothers are named. There are 4 of them. His sisters are mentioned. The people were saying, who is this man? Yeah, I think that's the passage I started reading. Don't we know his brothers? They named them. Don't we know his sisters? Don't we know his mother? Now, many Christians, Catholics in particular, tend to teach that these were the cousins of Jesus, not siblings. But of course, like all people who want to try to fit the Bible to their theology, they have to do some biblical gymnastics. It's a talent that all theologians and all people and all traditions have acquired and perfected. We want the Bible to say things that cohere with what we want and prefer. It's a great temptation. We want to stuff everything into the Bible, into our system. The Orthodox Christians, one of the largest communities of Christians in the world, they teach that these 4 brothers and unnamed sisters were the children of Joseph by a previous marriage. Now, we know all about those kind of arrangements today, but there's nothing in the Bible that would support this. The conclusions about the facts is driven by their theology and not the evidence, because Catholics and Orthodox and many others believe in what's called the perpetual virginity of Mary. Not only that she was a virgin when Jesus was conceived, a big enough miracle, but that she stayed a virgin all of her life. There are a lot of Marian doctrines that are part of this package. But it's hard to maintain this idea of a perpetual virginity when the Bible names 5 sons and mentions the daughters. These episodes in the Bible are what we would call an intervention. That is, Mary, the mother and brothers and family of Jesus, coming to Jesus. His mother and siblings get together and say, Jesus is not in a good place. We need to help him. Let's all go together and see if he will listen to us. Maybe we can get him to help us. That's recorded in Mark chapter 3, his version of this story. There also Jesus asked the question, who are my brothers? Quote, Jesus entered a house and again a crowd gathered so that Jesus and his disciples were not even able to meet. When his family heard about it, they went to take charge of him, for they said, these are his families, he's out of his mind. That's what his family was saying about Jesus. Well, that's our version of he has a mental illness. Some other people said he's got the spirit of Beelzebub, that is, a demon or the devil. What it was that Jesus' own family they were troubled by what Jesus was saying and doing. This is the context of today's questions. His mother and his brother are trying to intervene to save him, to treat him, to protect him, perhaps to shut him up. They said to him, Jesus, your people are here, your mom and your brothers. Jesus responded, who are my mother and brothers? We might want to add, who's my father and sisters? Who are my relatives? Who are my people? Or as we say sometime today, who are my peeps? Can you imagine Jesus asking it that way, who are my peeps? That's what he was asking. And Jesus answered, my people are those who do the will of God. Sometimes, when we ask, who are the brothers? That's a common word in churches and in monasteries, who are the brothers and sisters. We're referring to people who are baptized or have confessed their sin or gone to take communion or the Eucharist or joined the church, or that wear a cross around their neck, or they sing the doxology, they go to church. We have our churchy categories. We tend to separate the world into religious categories. There's Christians and non-Christians. There's the saved and the lost, the redeemed and the condemned, the church and the unchurched. But these religious categories do not work. Jesus is interested in how we live. My people, he said, are those who live a certain way, who do the will of God. So how would we summarize the will of God? Micah said this, do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with God. I don't know that there's a better summary in all the Bible. Jesus, again, in dialogue with somebody, used this criteria. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's hard to do. And love your neighbor as yourself. That's hard to do. But that's not a bad description. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus gave what we call the golden rule. Do unto others what you want them to do for you. What is your preferred way to describe the will of God for you? How do you describe what God wants you to do? Be baptized, read the Bible, bring an offering. Reminds me of what we called the 8-point record system when I was a kid going to Sunday school. Now, having those kind of disciplines are not a bad thing, but that kind of checklist that's what's pleasing to God? I don't think so. Not for our religion, not for Judaism, not for Islam, not for any religion. All the religions have a tendency to have religious criteria. If that way of thinking overtakes genuine righteousness and holiness, we're in big trouble, and the religion is sick, troubled, useless. Another good way to summarize what Jesus is saying is to use the Lord's Prayer as a guide to living. I have taught this and preached this for many years. If you read the prayer as, say, 5 or 6 summary statements of how we are to live, we are to surrender to the purposes of God, Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We are to trust God for what we need day by day, our food. And we are also to be an agent of God, helping God to answer that very prayer as it's prayed by our neighbor. We are to forgive others. We're to practice reconciliation, confess our own sins, and set things right. We're to resist evil, join others who are resisting evil. We're to avoid temptation. And in all days, always, we're to celebrate the goodness, the glory, and the wonder of God. All I've done is paraphrase the Lord's Prayer. If all you have in life, no Bible, no gospel, no copy of Matthew, no sermon, if all you have is the prayer, you've got enough to live a life that's pleasing to God. You'll be a brother and a sister to Jesus. This in the prayer is a really good definition of the way Jesus lived and died. It's the way we are to live and die. Well, I want to report that we've had some real generosity come our way in the last few weeks, as I've reported. I want to thank you for your support to the Meeting House, for my work. We have passed $30,000. We're headed toward 40,000. I want to encourage you, if you have not become a donor, you can be donor, I think it's number 80. The big question is, can we reach 40,000 by the end of the year? Well, if we all give a little and few people give a lot, we can make it. Thank you for being a part of my community, our community here in the Meeting House, where we try to have a conversation about life, about politics, about Jesus. These are turbulent times. They're hard times to live, not only in the United States, but also in Gaza. When you get to thinking about how bad your life is, you think about Gaza or Ukraine or Somalia or Venezuela or certain parts of the United States. A lot of people are suffering because of the actions of our federal government. They're being seized off of the streets, and this is an evil thing. They've lost their jobs, good jobs, serving people, and cutting all these jobs is an evil thing. They've lost their grants to do research. Just this week, we learned that there's a struggle to keep open the libraries that depend upon federal grants. Why would the government want to cut grants to libraries? Now they're telling us they're upending all of the scientific guidance for health and vaccines and children. This is all wickedness coming out of this federal government. And it's brought suffering and misery and turmoil and trouble to so many people. All the while, the president is tearing down the White House and building a big golden ballroom for his rich friends. This is all wickedness. It's not part of the United States. But we need to stay strong. We need to stay steady. We need to stay centered. We need to find in Jesus Christ a centering for our own lives. This is why week by week, I open the Bible and read a text, even if sometimes I have a hard time finding the text I'm supposed to read. I'm trying to help you stay familiar with the life of Jesus, great friend of saints and sinners, Son of God, Messiah of Israel, the great Rabbi of Nazareth, the one who was crucified by the government the one whom God raised from the dead on the third day. This is the Jesus that we are focused on week by week. This is the Jesus whose name we invoke when we live, when we pray, when we serve, when we give ourselves to the goodness and glory of God. Thank you for staying with me. I want to encourage you to write me. Ask me your own questions. Tell me what's going on in your crazy life. How can I help you find sanity and stability in these days? I ask you to pray for me. Pray for the leaders around you, the principals of schools and coaches of teams, executives in corporations and elected officials of all kinds, teachers everywhere, and those who clean up the floors and pick up the trash and put out the fires all around you. Everybody you know needs prayer and compassion and empathy and support and recognition, and you can make that happen. Many people are praying some version of the Lord's Prayer. Give me today something to eat, some place to live. My community here in Greenville, South Carolina, is voting tomorrow night, the city council, on whether to criminalize homeless people sleeping in a public place. There's not enough private places for them to sleep. This is going to be a problem for the police. It's going to be a problem for the homeless. It's going to be a problem for judges. It's going to be a problem for the people who run the shelters. I saw a wonderful video at the close of one of the national news shows this week. I think it's from maybe earlier in the year, about a man who retired from the police force somewhere in Maryland, I think, and took a large van and put washers and dryers in them, and now spends his week going around to the homeless communities in his city, washing and drying the clothes of homeless people. That is a Jesus person. That is a person, regardless of his religion, who's following Jesus, loving God and loving his neighbor. Tell somebody about Sunday in the House. Post this video on your Facebook page. Tag some people. Now, I want to encourage you to go to my website, themeetinghouse.net. Some of you have never been there. I've got some pictures of it. You can see what it looks like. I post every week a link to this program. I post a link to the articles I write for the newsletter. I post my book reviews. I just did a book review of the book by J.D. Vance 10 years ago. You might want to read it. themeetinghouse.net/something. You can find it there on my website. You can make a contribution. You can read the articles. You can sign up for the newsletter at themeetinghouse.net. I've been doing it for 20 plus years. You can invite somebody this week to join us in our search for authentic spirituality as we follow the life, ministry, teaching, the miracles, the compassion, and the courage of Jesus himself. God bless you. Have a great week. Have a safe day. Travel safely as you go to be with people you love this Thanksgiving. May God bless you. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next week for Sunday in the House.